Kotiba, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
This has been long in the making because I heard about you guys. I think it was last year actually. I met some of your people at an event, and it's been trying to make this happen, and we finally made it happen. So welcome here.
Thank you.
So tell me a little bit about your background and how it is that you got into this line of work.
Oh, so my background starts with me being a mom. So my daughter was diagnosed with hemiparesis. She had an in utero stroke. And from that stroke, she has a right side paralysis. So she has right side hemiparesis. And early on in her development, when she was about 2 years old, I noticed she was only moving her left hand, but not in the sense where the right hand wasn't moving at all. It was completely limp, like it would not even budge. And so I took her to the doctor. They gave her an MRI when she was about 2.5, and it confirmed the stroke. And she was prescribed early intervention services through physical therapy and occupational therapy. And at the time, I was ignorant to those therapeutic services. So I conducted some research and I started to learn more about them. And then as an educator, at the time, I was duly certified as a general and special educator. I started working in an inclusive school in the Lower East Side of Manhattan. And what we had, we serviced individuals that were 60% neurotypical, 40% students with disabilities, with varying abilities. So Down syndrome, autism, ADHD, ODD, any type of developmental disabilities. And we were able to manage their behaviors by BCBA who worked at the school. And at the time, I thought she was conducting magic. And I was so intrigued by what she was doing and how she was supporting the students at the school at the time. So I went back to school, to the Chicago school, and I started my supervision hours, and I wanted to become a BCBA.
Great. Let me ask you a little bit more about your daughter, because it
Sure.
helps me put things in focus for my daughter.
Yeah.
How old is your daughter now?
She is 19. She'll be 20 on Friday.
Awesome. And at what age did you start her on therapies?
She was 2008.
That's early.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Very early.
Yeah. And it made a difference.
It made a difference. So they also encouraged me to put her in activities to keep her active physically. So I put her in swim lessons. She had dance lessons at the time. And then she was a talker. So she also was in acting lessons. But what she stuck with was dance. But dance was really critical for her, especially because she was very interested. But then as she moved up in levels, she gets to this ballet class and she has to go on point. That's where it was discouraging. But all the time, her being able to point her feet, because she could not, I had to massage her every night. I had to massage her whole right side of her body. We had to stretch every day at night. So dance was able to do that for her on a natural basis. It wasn't until she had to get on point where the gap started to widen between her and the other dancers in her class. And that's where she became completely discouraged.
And then what did you do?
So she went to Bach Middle School of the Arts, which is, I'm not sure if you've ever heard of it. It's a magnet school in South Florida. It's in, I think it's in West Palm Beach area.
Yeah, a little out of my
area.
area.
Yeah. So she went there for a little bit, and then she wanted to go to Dreyfus, but then she changed her mind and went to Atlantic High School. And we just continued to have her dance, but she didn't want to be around the other individuals that needed to get on point because she started to realize the gap. She got older. Kept her active is what I did. So kept her body moving. Obviously, I massaged her every night, her foot, her legs. Now she's at FAMU and she's very active and you can't even tell the difference. But when she was young, she had a really heavy limp. So kind of like a cerebral palsy patient is what the form looked like, the topography of her movements. But now you won't even tell unless she gets really tired or she wears sandals without a back strap. You'll see her foot kind of slide out or it won't bend.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to the RBT because
Yes.
we were speaking about earlier. I had a conversation with Dr. Michael Alessandri.
Yes.
He's the executive director of CARD, which is the Center for Autism and Disabilities here in Miami. And he was talking about that they did a multi-million-dollar study on what are the best schools, what are the best systems like ABA, OT speech? And he said at the end of the day, it was the X factor was the people. So tell me about this RBT and what was the magic they were bringing?
So she was very educated on how to create behavior changes, but she did that by focusing on the client's environment, right? So she came in, she conducted an observation with myself, but outside of me too, to understand what are the contingencies behind the client's responses. So what was being provided after the client responded? So was that reinforcement that's going to increase that behavior that we wanted to see, or was it like a punishment procedure, what we call in an ABA, that was going to probably lessen that behavior from being presented in the environment? But she also was very intrigued in her studies. She conducted her supervision hours rapidly. She learned a plethora of ABA conventional tools at the time to understand what those deficits were and how we can highlight those skill deficits. And so she went on, she completed her supervision hours, finished her coursework, and now she's a board certified behavior analyst at our Jensen Beach clinic.
Which is a BCBA. Now, let me ask you about the RBTs, because the barrier of entry is not very high. It's only 40 hours. So how did this RBT, obviously the 40 hours didn't make them great. They made themselves great.
Correct.
What did she do to make herself great?
So I always say we always have people whose shoulders we stand on. So she made herself great because she was very educated. But at ABA Centers of Florida, we have an apprenticeship program. And that apprenticeship program is hosted by our Academy of Excellence. And what we do there, we really support our RBTs who want to become board certified behavior analysts. So we walk them through the process. We have them complete treatment plans. We have them complete observations. We have them collect data very strategically, making sure that data is valid and both accurate from a data collection perspective. But then we also have them align those deficits from the administration of the assessment to programming, which is critical, right? Because those are the goals that we set for each one of our clients. So she strategically did that, and she made changes in about 5 clients that I treated directly in the Jensen Beach area.
Do you think that any new RBT who plugs into your system could become magical?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because it takes clear supervision. It takes leadership, right? Motivating them consistently. Obviously, they have to want to do it as well, but going through consistent training is just not enough, right? We have to make sure we invest in RBTs, and that investment is not just training, it's being a mentor to them, right? Having those shoulders that they need to stand on. So when they fall, they know who to contact to support them. And then once they pass, being able to be the shoulders for the next person coming into the field.
Great. Now, I pulled these CDC stats from your website.
Okay.
And this just help us frame the conversation.
Yes.
So 24% of children with autism are diagnosed by age 3. And that was my daughter, actually. At age 3, she had her her official, not diagnosed, but evaluation.
That's good, yeah.
Yeah. And then 2% of children are diagnosed with ASD. Isn't it more?
Autism spectrum disorder.
No, I know what that is, but is 2%? Isn't it more than that?
It's about 2 million children diagnosed. So I don't know what that percentage would be, but the prevalence is actually increasing. We're 1 in 31 now, and back 2020 we were 1 in 36. So
I saw a study come out of California, which they say has got the best numbers, and with the boys it was 1 in 12.
Oh,
yeah, that's really high.
Yeah.
Okay. 4 times more common amongst boys, which is it's true. And in fact, people always ask me, "Oh, how old is your son?"
Yeah,
so they just assume, and it doesn't hurt my feelings or anything, but it's just it's a pretty fair assessment, assumption, right?
Yes, and what's critical to know too is girls are more intelligent. I'm not just saying that because I'm a female, but they learn how to mask their behavior is better than boys. So they will come into social settings and learn how to navigate that setting so it doesn't look like there's a gap between them and their peers.
Well, my daughter, she's nonverbal. She couldn't mask that.
Yeah, she's young too. She's young,
Right. So 66% lifelong care reduction with early intervention.
Yes.
Which I think is a really big one, just because this current cohort of kids that are going to be graduating high school in the next 5-10 years, it's a huge group. And I don't think the society is really ready for them. And economically, I see it's a ticking time bomb.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we talk about early intervention, what number is that for you?
Early intervention is critical, right? It's a critical stage that we need to all ensure that we take heed to. So when you see the differences, when you see the challenges, when you see the gap that's presented among your child, your students, your cousins, your nieces, we need to make sure we get them access. We need to make sure we get them access to a diagnosis, because that's the time where their neuroplasticity is at the highest peak and where we can make the best changes for clinical outcomes at those stages, because they learn to navigate that environment. Their brain learns to adapt, and their brain learns to adapt to change.
At the same time, parents shouldn't become discouraged.
Yeah.
If they're older and you just found out, get them plugged in.
Yeah.
And having these conversations with parents, educate yourself, and then parents are just parents. A lot of them, they don't know what's out there. And there's a lot out there that's even free.
Yeah.
And it might as well not even exist if you're not plugged into it. Mm-hmm. The other day I had a conversation with a lady. She's in her mid-60s. She's an autism grandma. And when I mentioned CARD to her, the Center for Autism and Disabilities, which is really big in Miami-Dade County, never heard of it.
Yeah.
And she's running for commissioner of one of the seats here in Dade County.
Oh, wow.
So, she's like an educated woman who's plugged in, and she'd never heard of what is really the biggest autism center in Dade County.
Yeah, education is important.
Totally. Self-education also.
Correct. And so it comes with awareness too, right? What is autism? Mm-hmm. What does that look like? And so many people are challenged by what it looks like, right? And what it should be. And then the different spectrums, as I mentioned earlier, right? How does it manifest in each one of these individuals who are diagnosed with autism? So not only does this individual, you said, she was not aware of CARD, but some pediatricians don't even know what it looks like, right? And they are the first point of reference that parents will go to and say, hey, something is wrong, right? So they may conduct a screening, right? And say, oh, well, everything's fine. But then as the child gets older and the gap starts to widen, now, we're entering their lives at a later time. And those are those level 1, ASD level 1 individuals where it's like, does he have autism or she have autism, or does he or she not, right? So I would always suggest, if something doesn't feel right to a parent, get them access to a diagnosis, because that's your answer. And what you do with that answer is up to you as a parent.
Yeah, and a lot of parents, for the ones who are listening out, don't know it, that a diagnosis is going to cost you, and it cost me quite a good amount of money, but the evaluation was free.
Yeah.
Like in Florida, 0 to 3, it's early steps. 3 to 5, it's fiddlers, and after that is the public school system.
Yes.
So parents who are listening, you can get an evaluation for free.
Yes.
Free.
And you can also access or call or reach out to ABA Centers of Florida. We provide diagnostic evaluations without a wait list. So that's what's important.
I had to wait 6 months.
Yeah. And some people wait 6 months, which is probably not that bad.
No,
but
it's not.
I've heard 8 months to 2 years, right? So it all depends on your insurance provider for some families, your economic status, because if I don't have insurance, can I pay out of pocket? Or do I know a facility or organization that will allow me to get an evaluation for free?
Yeah, and I was talking to this young mom, and her daughter is like 2 or 3, and she thinks her daughter's on the spectrum, and her pediatrician, just wait. And I was like, wait for what?
Wait for what? What are we waiting for?
Because, the evaluation's free.
Yeah.
If you're wrong, you're wrong. No harm, no foul. The kid's at 2 years old. You're not going to hurt their feelings
at all.
And then if you're right, you can get early intervention. And then a lot of these services that do cost money, without an evaluation or diagnosis, you can't get them.
Correct.
So like I tell people that when your doctor says to wait, it's like, wait for what? I mean, if it's like, you're talking about like brain surgery, okay, you know what, let's get a second, third opinion. We can wait on that one. But an evaluation.
And the ASD evaluation, it's not harmful at all. So the gold standard tool is the ADOS, and I've conducted the ADOS, and it's based on play, right? We play with your child, we interact with them. So it's not a harmful evaluation. So just to put that out there for parents if they're listening.
My daughter wasn't stressed at all by it.
Yeah.
At all. So it was really easy. Now, I will say this about, when we did get the confirmation that our daughter was autistic, it's scary. Because, you see TV, and usually with TV, either you get the best case scenario, like Sheldon from that show. Remember, there was all these geniuses that were autistic. It's like, well, that's not so bad because, he's like an MIT and he's a PhD.
Have geniuses,
And then at the other end of the spectrum, you hear like the horror stories.
Yeah.
So, and then obviously, as parents, you gravitate to the horror stories.
Correct.
Because it's scary.
Correct.
And in fact, when we were driving home, my wife's like, stop the car. I can't breathe. She was hyperventilating.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So, she took it really hard. And me, I'm a man. I was just stoic about it. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Fretting about stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm 10 years older than my wife. So, just more time to process stuff.
Yes.
So, but it is scary.
Yes.
And in fact, when my daughter was born, I told you earlier, she was born neurotypical.
Yes.
Around 2, she had a regression. And then for 6 months, her behavior just changed radically.
Yes.
And, as first-time parents, we just thought, oh, how cute. Because, at 2 years old, it's all cute.
Yes.
My mom was like, you know what? You guys got to wake up because something wrong with your daughter.
Yes.
When she said that, I was like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we weren't necessarily in denial. Just didn't know what we didn't know.
Yes. Yes.
But, again, there's no advantage to not knowing.
There's not.
Once you get confirmation, then you know.
Correct. And what you do with that as a parent is up to you. I always tell parents just from the diagnostic, the starting point, right? That diagnostic stage, you as a parent, you are in the driving seat.
You are in the driver's seat.
You can say, I want services today, stop them tomorrow. Oh, you know what? I want them again. And you have every right to do that. You have every right to an IEP at school for accommodations, and you have every right to pull that back, right? And then say, you know what? I want it again. I want another meeting. So I think parents, it's important for them to be educated on their rights as a parent, and what they do with their child is up to them. But I am going to state also as a clinician, it is so critical to continue that continuity of care, because what happens when we have these gaps and parents make decisions to pull out and put them back in is we interrupt services. And when you interrupt services, right, whatever manifested or whatever skills that were learned, they can regress, right? And those behaviors will have resurgence behaviors, which means that they'll come back, those inappropriate behaviors that we're trying to reduce that interfere with learning. So you want to make sure it's consistent, but I do want to educate parents in understanding that they're in the driver's seat. They control it, right? So, and the other thing is, other parents from different communities, like Black and Hispanic community, it's another stigma, right? It's something else I have to deal with and I have to worry about my child having. So it's I don't want that stigma. I'm a clinician and I have 3 close friends who think their child is on the spectrum but refuse to go for a diagnostic evaluation because they don't want that stigma. I don't want people to know my child has autism. And I talk to them all day, but I cannot force it, right? I can only educate and hope that they would do what's best for their child.
I can only speak from my experience.
Yeah.
But the stigma, there was no stigma.
Yeah.
Not in my family anyways.
Yeah.
And then in the community, people are pretty accommodating. They're super
That's awesome.
accommodating. My daughter sometimes at the playground, she'll step in on the kids because she's just not really aware.
Yeah.
And parents they'll get a little bit pissy. And then I'm like, well, she's autistic. Oh, and they're okay with it. Because it's a playground.
Yeah.
There's elbows and knees and all that anyways. But I've just, maybe it's different. Every parent's going to have a different experience.
Every parent, every community.
Yeah. But I found my personal family and my circle, everybody's been very
That's awesome.
accommodating and just, we don't even talk about my daughter being autistic.
Yeah, she's a person.
Well, how's Chloe? Is she coming?
Yeah.
But oh, how's your autistic daughter? That never happens. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Something I also want to talk about, the IEPs and the 504 plans for the parents out there, is that don't be your own lawyer.
Yeah.
Get help. You help out with IEPs and 504s?
Yeah, I used to when I was direct with clients, but clinicians that I oversee, they do support families during IEP meetings, of course. Yeah. And
then there's groups like the parent-to-parent card that,
Yes.
they also can help with the IEPs and make sure you're squared away.
Correct. We also have group sessions at ABA Centers of Florida for parents too, because what we're trying to do is build
workshops?
community. Yep. So we build community and we support them on educating them on their rights, right, as a parent, but also helping them to better support their parents, but then also have a network of people that they can always gravitate to when maybe the clinician is not with them in that moment, but they have a question, right? So you always want to make sure you're around people who understand. That word understanding is very important. What you're going through. Correct. So to be able to connect with you in that way, it's very important. So at ABA Centers of Florida, we're working very hard to build a strong parent community through multifamily group sessions on a weekly basis to support our parents.
I'm part of a men's Autism Dads group called Just for Dads.
Okay. Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I was I held off for a long time because I'm a man. I was I don't need that.
Yeah.
And then once I went, I was this is awesome.
Awesome.
Because it's a big table, And every dad goes through his experience, what they're going through. Then Dr. Michael Alessandri, he facilitates it. He's like, well, do this, call this person. Like we handle all of our like issues that we're having.
Yeah.
We'll bring soda, beer, pizza, whatever. And it's a really good time.
Yeah.
And you have this whole group of guys who are going through the same thing.
I love that.
And there's also just for moms.
Yes.
Now, what's cool about this group is that as human beings, we catastrophize. Oh, woe is me. But you go to these meetings and you realize, okay, someone's got it better, but someone's got it worse.
Correct.
So like me, like I find myself right in the middle. This one meeting, this dad came in. He was a new dad, and he was talking about his daughter, and he breaks down crying. And when he's done, and I didn't want to be flippant about it.
Yeah.
I was like, look, dude, not to be flippant about it, but your daughter's better than my daughter.
Yeah.
So like I understand that it hurts and you're just processing right now, but realize that there are people that it's worse.
Yeah.
I remember one time we had this Spaniard came. He only came one time, never came back for some reason, but he was talking about his son. And by the time he was done, it was just like dead silence.
Oh, wow.
The boy was suicidal and was already big. He was violent, and it's just like, oh my goodness, that's really bad.
Suicide ideation is real in the autism community.
It certainly is.
Yeah.
So, when you go to these groups, it's good to have a tribe.
Correct.
Of guys or gals that are the exact same boat, all rowing in the same direction. So the community is super important.
So important.
Let me ask you a question. When families finally reach you, they've been through stuff.
Yes.
Good and bad.
Yes.
Let's talk about the bad. What are some of the bad things that they've been through?
So they've been through long wait lists, whether it's for a diagnostic evaluation or I've passed that process and now I'm awaiting services for ABA. They've been through maybe ABA services, but not really good ABA services, where now they come with a stigma like, is this going to work, or apprehension, unsure if they should do it again. But then they also come with the why me, right? Why is this happening to me? And so I think ABA therapeutic services are not only for the client, it is definitely for the parent and the family as well. Because parents, I've been in homes where I have moms and dads with the pom-poms, the bumper sticker, I got an answer, autism all day. But then I also have the parents that said, it's your fault, right? To dad, you're the reason why, or dad's blaming mom, and mom's very rigid, and dad's let him be a child, right? And those circumstances can be reversed, but the true situation here is they get divorced, right? Arguments are happening consistently. Family dynamic is broken. And so that's another reason why we work really hard to try to build community for parents, because it's not only, the diagnosis doesn't only affect the child or is only an answer for a child. It affects the whole family dynamic because they're a part of that environment.
My wife and I, we have a good relationship. But I also will put it out there that the biggest marriage-threatening conversations that we had or fights have been over the kids.
Yeah.
Both kids. Yeah. My daughter and my neurotypical little boy. It's been over the kids.
Yeah.
Just different parenting philosophies.
It's emotion.
Totally
right?
emotion. And then you're projecting your own child. I want them to do better than I did. And you're holding them back and whatever. Like me, I'm like, let him jump off the roof if he wants. My wife's like, oh no, put a helmet on,
Moms are typically more rigid. And dad's like, let him be a child.
I always tell my wife, if there's no blood or bones, we're good,
Exactly. I agree with you, honestly.
Yeah. So, we've had the biggest fights have been over both kids.
Yeah.
Not just the one.
Yeah.
And so as far as things will be okay, I had on the show Alex Argote.
Okay.
He's the president of the Down Syndrome Association of Miami.
Okay.
Which the difference between Down syndrome and autism, one difference is that when before they're born, and then parents will come to him, and the first thing he tells me is things will be okay. Because it's scary. It's scary, but he tells them things will be okay.
Yeah.
And then plug in.
Yeah.
They'll do a lot of socials and stuff, and I've been part of their stuff, and it's a lot of fun.
It is.
It's great for the kids and it's great for the parents.
It's great for the parents, yeah.
But you got to plug in. Yeah. So, back to the autism and Down syndrome or whatever disability, things will be okay.
Yes.
The okay is not going to be what you thought it would be.
Correct.
It's going to be a different kind of okay.
Correct.
But things are going to be okay.
And it goes back to especially people who have their first child diagnosed with autism. When you're pregnant or expecting a baby, you have all these dreams, right, of what you want this child to be, or what you've envisioned your family to look like. And so that diagnosis, it changes everything, right? So all the dreams that I had, all the money that I put away in this trust, because this child's going to be this, big superstar, whatever, or doctor or lawyer, and they can be, but they may get there at a slower pace depending on their ASC level. And so sometimes that can be triggering to parents, right? But I think it's important to work with professionals and experts in the field to give them that hope, right? And allow parents to know, guess what? This still can happen. There are individuals diagnosed with autism, I think we said this earlier, who are geniuses, right? Smarter than you and me, and probably some of them at very young ages. So the hope is not lost, but I think that it's that pain point when that diagnosis is actually communicated, because I've been in the diagnostic evaluation department, and I had to be the one to provide the feedback. And I've heard anything from screams, leaving the computer, this is what I hoped I would not hear. And so you have to be very empathetic. You have to be patient with these parents. But most importantly, you have to give them the hope that they're seeking, and allowing them to know that all is not lost, right? We just have to move different.
Yeah. And then talk about parents being in denial. I think it happens more with the dads.
Yeah.
The dads check out.
Absolutely. So most dads will first discourage moms from even getting the diagnostic evaluation. I'm just going to put him in sports. I'm going to make him move. I'm going to have him do this. But then when that conversation happens, dads will leave. I've heard a dad tell mom, I told you, not to do this. This, they don't know what they're talking about. He's not getting services. He doesn't need services. He's not stupid. He's not, that R word, right? Comes out still, which I'm shocked about. But I don't know what it is with dads. I don't know if it's because men are more logistical, and it's just this is what it is, and this is what we have to do. We're moms. We're more of dreamers, right? We can make this happen. We can get services. We can, live on that belief. But dads become very heartbroken, and I've seen more in aggressive ways than mom when they hear that diagnosis.
Yeah, and then, and for the dads listening, there's physically leaving, then there's this emotionally checking out.
Correct.
Right, because you can be in the house
and
be completely checked out.
Correct.
And then I'll tell you this, because I'm a man, so I'm constantly looking at men.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of men my age alone.
Yeah.
And I think to myself, maybe you were married once with kids, and it wasn't what you wanted, and you thought you'd get divorced and get a better deal. Usually you don't get a better deal.
You don't get a better deal.
No, you usually don't get a better
Yeah.
deal. So, and I know that there are some people that they just have to get divorced. I've seen that too. So, but I think that there's, within that cohort of men, people that get divorced, there are people that could have made it work.
Correct.
And not made it work in this sucks kind of work, but look at me it's good.
Yeah.
It's not great. It's not the dream that we thought we see, in a movie, but it's good enough.
Yeah.
And then your kids, the stats are what they are. The science is what it is.
Yeah.
Kids that are raised with two parents in the home just do better.
Yeah.
So your kid, whatever level he's at, he's gonna do better if you're home.
Need you, yeah.
Yeah. Now, talking about geniuses, we all saw the movie Rain Man. I think that was 1980.
Right before my time.
Yeah. But that was the first time I'd ever heard of autism. And then you had Sheldon. He was on that show. It was a bunch of computer geeks, and he's very socially awkward, but he's at MIT or something, so he's probably going to be the next Sergey Brin and make $1 billion. Yeah. And then there are kids at the other end of the spectrum where they're really socially handicapped. Mm-hmm. But even then, not all hope is lost. I just saw this short video, and it's a single father raising his boy, and the boy had, in addition to autism, apraxia.
Okay.
Do you know what?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So it's hard.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And he was trapped. The kid he's in MIT right now.
Okay.
He's a calculus nerd, but he was trapped inside of this body. And it turns out that the one way he can communicate, he's got his iPad with his thumb.
AAC device.
With his thumb. He can have a conversation with you with his thumb. Does all his calculus work with his thumb. And the kid, they're going to make it work. not the dream. Nobody wants their kid to be trapped in that body. We love our children. We don't want them to be trapped, but it's not like all hope is lost.
Yes.
It's not lost until you give up. When you give up, okay, then all hope is lost. Because that boy never would have found that out if it wasn't for the father.
Couldn't communicate.
It was the father constantly looking. So you can't check out. And it's more of a dad thing than a mom thing.
It is.
For whatever reason.
And I've seen it, and I that's the reason why. So we not only assess our clients at intake, we also assess the parents. And we do that to find out where they are, right, in this process, right? Are you the cheerleading mom or dad? Because we do have some dads that are like, great, I got it, I'm going to make this work. But are you not, right? And so I know we talk about moms being more empathetic, but I do have the moms that check out too. Right. And so they need that extra support. And so what this assessment does, it gives us some insight on where they are as it relates to interacting with their child, their discipline strategies, because sometimes we get overwhelmed, right? And the way that we discipline individuals becomes different when we're frustrated. So we also talk about how they build connection with their child. Are they continuing these interventions that we teach them when we're in the home or the clinic or the school space? So we want to make sure we connect with them on both a clinical level, but also a personal level too, just to decide or observe where they are as it relates to interacting with their child that was just diagnosed with autism.
One of the dads in my dad's group, he has a son who is profoundly autistic. Okay. And I've met the boy, and he's profoundly autistic. And this man is his son's biggest cheerleader.
Love it.
And he loves his boy.
I love it.
And they go out together, and they, this is a dad who could have been, oh, woe is me, or I'm going to just enjoy being a dad.
Being a dad.
And he's having a great dadhood.
Awesome.
Because he could have chose the other way.
Yeah.
And how sucky would that be?
And his child needs him.
Not just for the boy, but for you also.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. He needs that fulfillment, dad. But then his son, his interaction relationship with his son is so critical, because even when he thinks he's not teaching him and he's not modeling, he is, right? And so that constant engagement and interaction in his life is what's going to build his skill set.
Yeah, and this one guy, he's a friend of mine, he's plugged into the system. Like the dad's group, he goes there and other things. And I think that a lot of times the parents are left out of the equation.
Yeah.
Because profound autism can be profoundly hard on the parents. I'll give you an example. Maybe it was a year ago already. This 17-year-old young man, he's 6'6", 300 pounds. He's violent. He attacked a teacher, almost killed her. Now, maybe he's very loving with his mom. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I remember when the police, there's a video of the police arresting the boy. And, a 17-year young man.
Yes,
not a boy.
yes.
These are grown men. They came to his shoulders.
Oh, wow.
The boy is handcuffed, and they're like, you're going to be a good boy, right? Like, you could hear the fear.
Yeah.
And these are grown men, my size.
Yeah.
But on a boy, who's 6'6", 300 pounds, he could kill me too. And even if there's two of us. So parents, they need therapy, whatever it might be. Maybe even just having a dad's group or a mom's group. But we need it too.
They need support. And not only parents, but paralegals, right? Or paraprofessionals, in a school, teachers in the school. It is so important for us to get access to schools, because those individuals or those educators, they don't have the training to support some of the individuals in the classroom. Now, you may have a special education teacher that has some training, right? But the paraprofessionals that come in and or the general education teachers, they may not always have that training. So when your child is in that inclusive setting, and if the special education teacher is not in today, you want to make sure your child is safe, but then also everyone else in that room is safe too, if we have a client or a student in the room that engages in aggressive behaviors at high rates like that.
In defense of the paraprofessionals, you might be dealing with an entire class of kids who are all on the spectrum.
Of course.
Of needs and abilities and aggression, non-aggression, and that person, you as the parent, you know how your boy or your daughter is.
Yep.
They don't know.
Yeah.
They might just see this huge boy, like, I'm scared of that kid because he's
that's
really
the gap. They should know.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
But how do you? Okay, let's say you've got a classroom. How many kids are in a class? Like typically
about 25.
You can't be the expert on all of them, not like the parents are.
So you can't, but we need some insight on all of the individuals in the class. We do. And so, as I mentioned earlier, I served as a behavior interventionalist. And what I had to do, although it was, exhausting, I had to learn every kid in every classroom in each one of the grade levels, at each grade level. And so that was a lot, but it gave me some strong insight on who I need to visit every day, who I could probably visit every week, right? But I also had to educate the teachers on collecting data and also our intervention strategies and how we interact with those kids, because one wrong move or one change in the environment can cause a huge extinction burst, right? Behaviors that are presented at such high rates and everyone's alarmed, and it can cause some high safety issues.
Before we move into ABA, I want to head back to the dads, because this is really important for me anyways, to say this, that a big turning point for me in my marriage and my dadhood, I was being hard on my wife. Okay. And my sister, she's like, look, Victor, you need to realize that she's doing bop, 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 bop. And it's really hard for a mom to do that and for a woman to do that. And you need to be a better person and nicer to her. And that was like that was a 180 for me. I'm a completely different husband and father since that conversation. But it took a trusted person. Yes. Because I could have read it in a book and just be like, not even thought about it. Yeah. But then when my sister said it, it really it registered.
Good.
Yeah. So
congratulations.
Thank you. So I can only talk to the dads. Yeah. But dads, we don't realize how important we are and the influence that we have inside the house. Now, moving on to ABA. So, okay, there's something that I know the textbook definitions of ABA, speech, OT, but what do those differences look like in the classroom?
So in the classroom, it all depends on, I think I just mentioned this, what presentation of behavior is happening in the classroom and what contingencies are occurring in that classroom. So we have to think about, when we think about at intake, when we bring clients in, the first thing we want to understand is, what behavior are they presenting, but then what's the function of that behavior? And the function of any behavior is the why. Why is he or she presenting this behavior? So you know how kids act up in school, parents get a call and the parents is like, why did you do this? Sometimes they're so young. And
it's a profound question.
Yeah, they're like, I don't know why I did that. I don't know. Totally. I don't know. So now you got to think, and that's a neurotypical kid. So now you got to think about a child on the spectrum. What they know essentially is they're going to be able to contact some type of reinforcement. And what reinforcement is that? So it could be, I hate math. I know I don't like this subject. It's hard for me. Maybe this paraprofessional is next to me trying to make me do this work that I don't want to do. So I throw a chair. And when I throw a chair, every time I do that, I get a call. They call my mom and I get sent home. So now I avoided it, right? So the function here is escape. I'm going to escape this task. So now every time during math, I'm going to throw this shit, because now we call it operant conditioning, is where we set up the environment that math comes, I throw a chair, I go home. Now I serve that function, and now the behavior is going to increase. So what we do from an applied behavior analysis standpoint is we ensure that they do not escape the task. So suspension is not it. Calling mom to remove the child from the environment is not the answer, because now you're just going to increase that throwing chair behavior. The answer is, first, we got to have them achieve the goal. And the goal is, maybe it's complete a worksheet, right? And if there's 10 problems on the worksheet, we go in and we say, you know what? He's going to do 2. He hates math. Then we're going to give him a break. Then we say, okay, once you have your break for 5 minutes, you're going to come back and then you're going to do 2 more. So you complete the page. You may not complete it in 10 minutes like every other kid in the class, but you do complete the goal. The child is satisfied and they learned a new way of navigating that environment. Hey, I can do this worksheet with support and have breaks, or I can throw chairs and avoid it and not learn at all. So that's what we mean by interfering behavior, when the behavior interferes with the child learning behavior. So what applied behavior analysis is, from a technical definition perspective, it is an evidence-based intervention that we try to increase more appropriate behaviors and reduce maladaptive behaviors in a child's repertoire.
Now, to me, speech therapy is pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
What is occupational therapy? in the real world?
Yeah, so occupational therapy focuses on more on motor abilities, right? How I move, how I write, how I hold a pen, how I hold a fork and a spoon, right? So more on your fine motor than applied behavior analysis would.
Does this also come to like toilet training?
No, applied behavior analysis, we support toilet training because it's more daily functioning skill. It's part of our adaptive skill set. So we'll support a family with toilet training.
Right. Now, there's a lot of like objective stuff.
Yep.
And a lot of subjective stuff.
Yeah.
Like, how do you balance that?
Okay. So the objective, so I am big on data-driven results and I try to ingrain that in my clinicians. But subjective measures are also important and that's our observation.
The art.
Yeah. So when I go into that classroom, for example, since we were just talking about school, I'm observing the environment, right? I am looking at all the contingencies and the variables that are going to make a behavior change in this environment. However, when I assess the individual, it highlights all the skill deficits. So with that assessment, I'm learning what I need to increase as far as the client's skill set. But then with that observation, I'm learning what I need to reduce as far as a behavior standpoint.
Now, how important is environment to you?
Oh, it's extremely important. Yeah, extremely important.
Unpack that.
So environment is important because that's where all variables live, right? So that's where, I'm going to say it again, our SDs are, right? So all the different discriminative stimulus, right? So that can be people, that can be things, that can be light flickers, that can be anything.
Colors of the walls.
Yep, colors of the wall, the chart in the classroom that turns red when I walk in. Now I'm alarmed by it, right? So it can be anything that we call it an antecedent that causes a response, whether that response is negative or positive in the environment. And then what happens after the response is the consequence. So it's not consequence in layman's terms, so people just think consequences are bad. It can be a reinforcing consequence, like, okay, you came in here, you threw a chair, I gave you a candy, right? Now I love that. I want a candy. Now I've learned to throw a chair every time I get a candy. So what we do when we look at behaviors from an observable standpoint, we look at when the presentation occurs, what time it occurs, who's involved before and after the response occurs. But then when we look at or administer an assessment, we're looking at skills. How many skills does this child have in his or her repertoire? What is their IQ level? How fast are they going to get to learning these new behaviors that I'm going to increase in their repertoire? And then what is their ASD level? And then also, how old are they? Right? Is this the early intervention stage I'm dealing with? Or is this my adolescent that is his first point of therapeutic services with ABA services? So I know how long this is going to take me before I make a behavior change.
What is adolescence for you? Like what age?
So that's about 12 to 18. 18 is more young adults, but still I put them in the adolescent range depending on their IQ level.
Let's talk
their
about
learning
IQ.
function.
My daughter is nonverbal.
Okay.
Level 2. How do you assess IQ?
So we assess it using a measuring tool. At ABA Centers of Florida, we use the Wechsler scale, which is one of the gold standards IQ assessments. And what that does is it assesses the client's cognitive function, and obviously, but then how we look at it as clinicians, we say, okay, if they have a cognitive deficit, a score lower than 70, right, we know that it's going to take.
And what is 70? What does that tell you?
They have cognitive deficit, right? So they're cognitively very low, which is going to be a slower rate to progression, right? So, but if I'm dealing with a genius, right, anybody over 115, then I know it's going to be a faster rate before I start to ingrain all the progressions that's going to happen in this service.
Now, you know, I'm pretty well versed on ASD. I'm probably as well versed as you can be for just being a dad.
Yeah.
But there's still a lot of stuff that I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. I talked to this one, he's high functional autistic now. He was nonverbal till 14. He said he lived in his own little world. He did not know the world existed. He was in his own little world. At 14, he started speaking at the age of a 2-year-old. And then now you get on the phone with this guy and he speaks like you and me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I would tell parents, and maybe you can correct me here if I'm wrong. I would tell parents that, okay, you get let's say they're like my daughter, 8 years old, and you get an IQ of 70. Like, this guy might have gotten an IQ of 70 back when he was nonverbal. And then now he's got a good life. So the IQ score would have said he was low because he just couldn't interact with that test, although he wasn't. Is that correct?
It could be. But what the only thing the IQ score tells me is how long I'm going to get to a behavior change. What it does not tell me is what you just mentioned. It doesn't mean he can't get any stronger from a cognitive standpoint. So what we do is we assess annually, right, the IQ score, and it does increase sometimes.
Do you tell parents this?
Yeah.
You do?
Absolutely. Yeah.
This helps frame stuff.
Yeah. So it does increase sometimes, and I'll say it here too. And what I look at from a clinical standpoint, I look at how the ASD levels change over time too. And I think the IQ has a lot to do with that. So we can have a client that comes in, like your daughter, ASD level 2, and then she gets ABA services, and then a year later we test her achievements, and she can move up, right, based on the standard deviations on the violin tool. She can move up in levels, and now she can be an ASD level 1 client. And so what that tells me is her IQ score actually increased as well because she now has a quicker rate to learning.
You know, one time, one of the administrators or teacher at my daughter's school, they told me, "Oh, your daughter's very intelligent," and that kind of it rubbed me wrong because I was like, "How do you know that?"
Yeah,
because she can't and I want her to be intelligent. At the same time, I'm a man who likes honesty.
you're a realist.
Because if I know the reality, I can then, I can then plan.
Yes.
If I'm being told a reality that's not real, then maybe I'm making plans that just are going to come to nothing.
Yes.
So, when are there times that the data says one thing, but the child says another?
So we learn those differences through observation and administration of the assessment, right? So when we say the data says one thing and the observation says another, that can mean a couple of things. It can mean maybe I utilize or administer the wrong assessment on this individual based on their ASD level, based on their skill set, based on the behaviors that they're presenting, right? So we ensure that our clinicians utilize and administer an accurate assessment that's accurately aligned with the deficits of that individual. Sometimes parents come in though, and parents will say, "Oh, my kid can do all of these things," right? You have that dad that believes my kid doesn't have autism. I'm going to fill out this assessment, and they do all of these things. But when I go in, I said, okay, well, I know I need this measurement too because this kid is so successful in all of these skill sets. But then when I go do the observation, I don't see any of the things that dad or mom said he or she was successful in. So I think that's the only time where it shows a highlighting difference when parents administer a tool, right? And they say, my kid can do all of these things. So for example, we have a skill called manding. And what that is can your child communicate, right? Manding. Yep, like a demand. Can I make a demand?
Okay.
Think of it like that. So maybe I want potato chips, right? And so the assessment says, can your child ask or make requests for things in their environment that absolutely, my child can do that. But when I go for the observation and I look, little Johnny is like, Mom's like, he wants chips. He does all the time. Because she knows that every time he says and now they have a learning contingency in the home of means chips, right? It's equal to chips. But will the layman understand that means chips when I go to the store? So no, it does not. And when I learned to see those huge differences, I ensured that clinicians were actually reading the questions to parents so that they clearly understand. So when Johnny makes that request for chips, is he using words when he makes the request? Would everybody understand in his environment that he wants chips, or just mom and dad? So that's where the differences come in.
My daughter, she does the a lot.
Yep.
And my wife is on her hard, like, no, Chloe, say the word.
I love that.
And it's working.
Good.
We haven't arrived yet. She still does the but she's doing it less. And my wife is forcing her to use the words.
Good.
So like, you guys, you're going to have the kids X amount of hours. But the parents have got that kids 3 times as much as you do.
Yeah.
So if the parents aren't reinforcing at home, the efficacy is only going to be, much less.
Yeah, it's very critical for parents to be involved in
my wife's
services.
super involved.
Yeah, it's very, very critical because we need that continuity. Like you said, we go home, right, after 5, 6, 7 hours, and you are with your child. So the one time you don't engage in those interventions that you've learned from the clinician or just from your environment or from textbooks, whatever it is, they lose that skill. right? They lose it and they learn other ways to contact their wants and their needs in their environment. But those other ways are more inappropriate ways that everybody in their environment will understand. So then it lessens their social interaction ability when they go into the real world to become independent.
You know, I would tell parents that even in the home environment, we need professional help. And I'll give you an example.
Yes.
We have a playroom and we put down these foam pads on the floor. Now they come in an 8-pack and they're like puzzle pieces that come together and they're all different colors. So I laid them out like all like different colors. And I thought, this is so cool looking, you know, like, look, I'm so clever. And then the professional, he's like, I want to see a photo of your kid's playroom. And he looks at it. He's like, oh no, no. And then when he explained it, I was like, yeah, that actually makes sense. Mine looks cool, but I can see how like her little developing brain. So like now it's all like one color. So the lesson I drew from that was that we need outside help.
Yeah.
People that have been there, done that already to tell us, even in home.
Correct. So you need that support, but ABA is so individualized because so maybe the colors didn't work for your child, but the colors may work for another child with ASD. So it all depends on what the goal was. What were we trying to achieve with those pads and those colors? So I think we need to focus on the goal first and then the individual.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, going back to ABA therapy, how does ABA therapy need to change as the child grows?
How does it need to change?
Yeah.
So when
does it change?
Yeah, it does as the child grows because we're not focusing no longer on foundational skills like we would in EI, early intervention, right? We're now focusing on how can we make this individual an independent individual in his or her society, right? That's the goal. How can they better socially interact with their peers? How can they communicate with their peers at a successful level? But then also, parents don't live forever, right? How can they live this life by themselves independently? So that's what we start to focus on. So how money management, cleaning your house, taking care of yourself from a daily living standpoint, right? So how do you do all those things and teach someone to do it independently? Cooking for yourself, learning to live alone.
Yeah. Now, I mean, this is not like either of ours, like, I guess, value add, although no, it isn't value add, that thinking about adulthood, that beyond the therapies, parents also need to think about guardianship and special needs trust. And these are just, I'm just throwing it out there because these are things that are going to happen. Like we're all going to die.
Yes.
And then what's going to happen to our kids?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, adolescence, teenage, 13 is a pretty like, one of those dividing lines that most cultures all around the world, they recognize that number.
Yes.
So I'm guessing it's because of puberty.
Yep, it is because of puberty. And so that's something that's probably most difficult for parents with children with autism, girls especially.
And they get it younger.
They get their period, 10, some 9.
I know.
And it's very hard to train them. So, first we can probably just be successful with making sure they take a shower, right, on a daily basis. But now they have to change this pad. They have to make sure they bring a bag. They have to know how to clean themselves when they're not with mom. So all of those things are really difficult. But the beauty in that is we create a whole program for it. And again, set a goal for that individual and for mom to ensure that she's continuing these intervention strategies and principles when she's in the home alone with her daughter. I also worked with males at the adolescent stage who masturbate, right? And so what we never want to do is tell them that it's wrong, right? We just want to let them know how to do it privately, right? When to do it. And those conversations can be very uncomfortable for some parents because I've walked in a home one time and there was semen all over a bathroom wall, right? Mom's like, I don't know. He keeps doing this, right? All he knows is it feels good, right? So we call that an automatic response. I've learned to do something that feels good, so now I'm going to continue to do it. So those are the hardest stages. And it's very important that we train, and I try to do this with ABA centers, clinicians to be invested in that age group. So many clinicians love the babies, right? Everybody loves the little people. They love to work with them. But that younger age has so much support. Is when they get older, when people start to drop off, right? Mom and dad start to go to work more often because their other kids are getting older. People are going to college, so I can't spend all my time here. So I put a high focus on the adolescent and young adult community because they deserve it. And they are the goal, right? From early intervention. The goal is for us to get them to a stage when they are an adolescent and young adult where they can be independent.
Yes, super important. And it's easy to lose sight of that.
Correct.
Because they're, like you said, they're not cute anymore.
Yeah. The cuteness goes away, we're an adult.
They're the future.
They are the future.
Because I had on Camila Rocha. She's the CEO president of Easter Seals.
Okay.
Like the same population. And she's like, it's like 95% of autistic adults aren't employed.
Yeah.
Then actually but okay, there's unemployed but employable.
Yeah.
There's unemployed but unemployable.
Yeah.
Of that 95%, how many are employable? 95%.
Yeah.
If they get their early intervention.
Correct.
Because, go ahead.
Early intervention, but then also we set up programs for them to make sure we are matriculating this skill set into their repertoire. So I've worked with adolescents, young adults, where we go in the house, we're sweeping, we're mopping, we're budgeting, we're learning a credit card, we're learning, simple math, addition, subtraction. How does that work? Providing eye contact when you serve somebody, because most on-the-job skills training is for them to support them being cashiers, servers, interacting with people, which is very difficult for some of them, right? And how do we do that? And how do we do that and sustain patience, one, customers to be empathetic with them when they get frustrated and overwhelmed. So we have to teach them how to cope. I did have one client who threw the whole tray at his guests, but they had a true understanding that he had autism. And so we had to go through that unpairing, right? Unlearning that behavior and learning more appropriate behavior when he is frustrated, because being frustrated is natural. But the way we respond or the way he responded was not appropriate.
Now, before we close out, I want to ask you about ABA centers in Florida. I don't know how long we've been talking for a long time.
Wow.
So let me ask you about ABA centers of Florida.
Yes.
How long have you guys been in Florida?
Oh, so I was the first employee in Florida.
Oh, really?
So yes,
Number one?
Yes,
Awesome.
Number one. So 2021 is when we started.
Oh, not that long ago.
Yep.
But you guys have been growing like weeds.
Yes, we've been growing rapidly. But
where was your first store or your first center?
Port St. Lucie. So I didn't have a center yet, but Jensen Beach Clinic was the first clinic. Yeah, we started in the home, doing home services.
And how many centers do you have now?
Oh my God. So in Florida, we have about five physical clinics. Yeah.
Oh, well, okay. Unpack that.
Yeah, so we have a physical clinic in Boca, but then we have service areas too. So we have Miramar, where they get services in the home and the community and the school, but they don't have
community. What do you mean by that?
So it's anywhere. So we meet clients where they are. So if your child has gymnastics or dance or they have any after school activity where they need support, we'll meet them there. If they are working, right, and they need some on-the-job training skills and we want to support them at work, we'll meet them there, right? So any activity they do outside of the home school and clinic setting, we support them in the community as well.
Now, speaking of schools, a lot of public schools, and I'll speak about them just because if you're at autism charter school, obviously you're set up for that.
Yeah.
A lot of these public schools are not set up for that. They're abysmally set up for that.
Yeah.
Are they contracting centers like yours to come in, or should they? Or are they going to?
They should. So Florida has a law where they have to let us in. But, not all schools are, they don't make it easy for us. I would say that.
Which is a shame.
It's a shame. Because
sometimes outsourcing is the way to go.
Correct. So I was a teacher. The beauty in my role is I was a teacher at one point. And so I remember the conversation with, individuals coming in to service some of our students. There were two factors. One, the principal is going to support their teacher, right? Because they need their teacher. And if the teacher says, I don't want anybody in my classroom for whatever reason, my colleagues at the time, they would say, that's an informant. I don't want parents to know what I'm doing in my classroom, which is alarming in itself, right?
Super alarming.
I don't want parents to know what I'm doing in my classroom all day. Or others will say that would be a distraction. And so surprisingly enough, other students will say, well, I want a person, I want an RBT, and we can't give everybody, what I would say was everyone gets what they need, right? But some kids don't understand that. So there are a lot of factors that we have to look at. But at the end of the day, the principal has a right to say whether the RBT can come into the school or not. But in Florida, there's a law where we can come into the school, but they don't always make it easy.
Well, I think I've heard that like a principal can say no. Is that correct?
They can.
They can.
They can.
But there's
we
a law.
don't stop.
But if there's a law that says you have to, how does that work?
So they would say they don't need the resources, right? So they would say this kid is set up. They have a paraprofessional. We're making all these accommodations on the IEP. So as long as you show the support, right? We're supporting the kid.
But not really.
Yeah. So we know, right? Observations, are you really supporting them on a weekly basis or as much as I can support that child? Because I'm going to sit directly next to that child.
Because the more the merrier, right?
Correct.
I think.
Correct.
Are you guys in Dade County yet?
Yes.
Where are you?
We are, I don't know the exact location, but we are in Miami area, yeah.
Okay. Now, you also have a sensory room at the Marlins Stadium and the Panther Stadium also?
Yes.
At the football stadium too?
We have Florida Panthers and Miami Marlins. We have a sensory room in each one of those stadiums. And the goal of those sensory rooms is to ensure that families can go out, enjoy themselves without having to run back home because their child has a sensory need. So what we provide to the clients there is they get headphones when the noise is too loud. They get a cushion.
Oh, you get a nice little pack.
A whole pack to support their needs.
Yeah, I went out there and I did a piece with Grant Miller on the sensory room.
Okay. Oh, nice.
My only complaint is that they need about a dozen more.
Yeah.
It's a big stadium. But,
it is a big stadium.
But the room was big enough, and but only supports one family at a time.
Yeah.
It was super nice. And then I'm actually seeing more and more of these. Like they've got these at the airport.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So it's
nice. So beneficial. And that just,
beneficial.
Yeah. And it just supports like more and more people are becoming aware that there are individuals in our society with autism that has needs and they can be inclusive as long as we support them and provide the resources for them.
Yeah. I was at the airport with the family.
Okay.
You got to get there early, which usually means you're sitting at the gate for a long time. And my little kid's got ants in their pants. So I take them to the sensory room, close the door, and then do whatever you want. You can climb the walls if you want to. So it's such a nice thing. And you know what?
Yeah.
And it's not just good for us. It's good for everybody.
Yes.
Because, if you don't have an autistic kid, I can, as an autism dad, I can see how we bother people sometimes. Yeah. So if we can have a separation sometimes, it's good for everybody involved.
It's healthy.
Yeah, it's healthy.
It's healthy for all of us.
Like when you're in the plane, you just got to suck it up.
Yeah.
Right? Like crying babies, whatever. But there are times when you can have a healthy separation, and it's a good thing for everybody involved.
Yeah.
So there's 5 last questions I want to ask you. All right. So the first one is one word that defines your clinical philosophy.
I would say compassion. Compassionate care is very important. We have this dyad model at ABA Centers.
A what?
A dyad model at ABA Centers of Florida. It's just when clinicians and operators come together to support the client. But I think it's very important for clinicians to hold on to that compassionate care. Totally. Growth is important, right? We have to operate a business, but being compassionate to both families and the clients is more important.
Awesome. Next question is one misconception about ABA therapy that needs to disappear.
That we force compliance and we force people to behave in ways that we want them to behave. And I think the critical thing for people to understand is we actually foster.
Okay, I was going to ask you what word.
Positive,
you use.
So we actually foster positive behaviors within
force.
A child's environment. Yes.
And words are super important.
It's very important.
Super important.
Very important.
The most overlooked factor in effective autism care.
Parent engagement. Parents, they don't think they have to be involved, but they are so critical in making a positive behavior change in their child's life.
I see my daughters advance, and without my wife, because she spends the most time with her, my daughter wouldn't be halfway where she is right now.
Absolutely.
And there's a big advance in my daughter.
Absolutely. And I do want parents to know, too, parent engagement is part of the treatment package when you get ABA services. It's part of the success story. They are part of the success.
Awesome. One thing families should never feel ashamed of.
Asking questions and reaching out for support.
Yeah. A lot of times we're just like, not sure if it's embarrassed or just scared to ask questions. We don't look dumb or whatever.
I think it's both. And that's why we created these multifamily groups at ABA Centers of Florida. So they have a way that they can feel supported when they ask those questions where they don't seem educated, right? Or where they feel like they can just vent and everybody in the room understands them.
Yeah. And, this also brings me back to the conversation we had about language. because a lot of times we're scared to talk about it because maybe we're like, oh, I'm not talking the right way about it.
Yeah.
Like for example, early on, I'd have paraprofessionals say, no, you don't say autistic people, you say person with autism,
Yeah.
people first language. And then I talk to autistic people, like, no, I'm autistic. I'm not a person with anything.
Yes.
So I would tell parents that the language around autism is constantly evolving. Yep. Two different people, two different groups can have varying differences in how they talk about it. So don't, even if somebody calls you out, they might be wrong.
Yeah.
They might be wrong. They might be wrong in this context, but you ask over here and they'll say, no, that's completely wrong.
Ask the individual.
Yeah.
That's what's important.
Yeah, ask the individual.
Yeah.
Yes, because when I've asked autistic people, they're like, I'm an autistic person. I'm not with anything. Yeah. So, so no shame.
Yeah, not at all.
All right, last question. Finish the sentence. This work succeeds when?
Oh, when we support children who are in need, when we maintain behaviors in a child's repertoire, when we have parent engagement, and when independence is the outcome. Yeah,
that's so awesome. Do you measure that independence like post graduation?
We do.
You do.
So what we do before they graduate is 3 months prior, we actually measure their maintenance and mastery criterion according to all of their goals. How long are they maintaining these goals? And if there is any resurgence and any interferent behaviors.
And at what age are they like out of the system? Is it 21 or 22?
No, they can get ABA at 21 or 22. We have someone in care right now who's 26.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
We don't discriminate. Everybody gets the care.
Who pays for that?
If you need it, insurance.
Really?
Yeah. We just have to prove, obviously, medical necessity, and they get what they need.
So you could be 40 and getting ABA?
Yeah.
Really? I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so good to
Would
know.
it be easy? Probably not. We have to make sure we prove medical necessity, which is very critical. So I'll add to that statement and say data driven results are also very critical because we ensure that we assess using valid tools. We also ensure that our observation meet the deficits that we are highlighting in that assessment. And so that way we can accurately measure validity within our tool, but then also the deficits within the client's repertoire.
I would also tell parents that document everything at home.
Absolutely.
And when it comes to like ABA services beyond the age of 21 or 22, don't be your own lawyer.
Advocate.
Get professionals.
Get professionals help, but then advocate for your child.
Oh, yes, of course.
Because some parents, I don't see that with you. I actually appreciate how you advocate for your daughter, but some parents hear something from a payer or just, a peer and they just believe it. And it's like, okay, there's nothing else I can do. Advocate for your child, whether they're an adult, an adolescent, or in the early intervention stages. That advocation is so important.
Yeah, and I'll give you a success story of advocating for your kids. I had these autistic violin players on. Yeah. And when they were in high school, they were quite good, and they tried out for the choir or court, whatever it's called, and they didn't make it. And the daughter told her mom, I'm good enough.
Good for her.
There's kids that got in that I'm better than them. Wow. And the mom advocated and she got her daughter in. Yeah. Yeah. And it was happened to both those girls that both of them, they got overlooked. They call it ableism. Yes. They couldn't get in. And when the parents, they didn't ask for a favor because the kids were literally good enough. Yeah. And they both ended up going to college for music. And now they're professional violin players.
It's amazing.
And if the moms hadn't advocated, that would not have happened. Who knows where they would be?
Absolutely. Yeah. And so I encourage parents at ABA Centers of Florida to advocate, but then I also encourage clinicians to advocate for our clients as well.
Awesome. Well, this has been a great conversation. Yes. I've learned quite a bit. And I'm so glad I finally got you on.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate this opportunity.
Great. Let's turn to the camera. We'll sign off. So this has been the Autism Podcast with Katiba Davis of the ABA Centers of